That honor and loyalty was a maneuver, Carlo.
What if I told you Tony Soprano would have ended up flipping for the FBI, not because he had to, but because it was his smartest move? There's virtually no chance Tony Soprano wouldn't have flipped by the end. His financial situation was deteriorating, his crew was decimated, he lost the respect of those around him, and the two individuals best positioned to take over for him were dead. The grind no longer offered him anything, and he had long abandoned traditional mafia ideals.
Fuck that honor and loyalty shit. It was a maneuver, Carlo. Because he knew it was his own fucking fault.
He even said it outright. Fuck all that honor and loyalty shit. At that point, Tony was operating purely out of self-interest. His moral flexibility had already been established.
Degenerate fucking gambler.
He despised degenerate gamblers and later became one himself. That's a key character shift. It shows how little he valued consistency or principles when it didn't suit him.
Listen, that subject we talked about. If I was to know something possibly terror-related and help you out, could I bank the result in goodwill?
The fact that he started feeding Agent Harris information about Middle Eastern men wasn't a minor detail. It signaled that Tony was dipping his toes into informant territory, testing the waters.
I'm still in touch with some agents who won't go see. From what they hear, you're not very popular in Brooklyn.
That relationship, framed as a quid pro quo, grew increasingly murky as Harris began reciprocating with tips of his own, eventually helping Tony with his problems in New York. Harris appeared to develop a nostalgia for the old Mafia cases. He transitioned into counter-terrorism post-9/11, but the psychological toll and impersonal nature of that work may have made his old enemies like Tony seem more familiar, even preferable. Organized crime, for all its brutality, operated with a kind of structure that terrorism didn't. The veal parm sandwiches, satriales, the personal dynamics. It was all part of a world Harris understood. And when Phil Leotardo escalated things with brazen public violence, it highlighted how figures like Tony were seen, even by law enforcement, as preferable to chaos agents like Phil. From a systemic angle, the FBI often prefers having familiar, even manageable, crime figures like Tony in power. While violent and criminal, bosses like Johnny Sack or Carmine Sr. still kept a lid on civilian fallout. In contrast, Phil was out of control. Harris assisting Tony in eliminating Phil wasn't just about personal sympathy. It could have been a strategic decision benefiting the Newark office. Letting Tony take out Phil could be chalked up as a win in their inter-office rivalry with New York. This fits with how law enforcement actually works. Agencies and field offices operate in competition, seeking high-profile busts that can boost careers. In such a context, flipping Tony wouldn't just be about justice, it would be about optics. The man was a headline-grabbing name. Even if he didn't have immediate access to higher-tier members of the five families, he had access to other valuable targets: dirty cops, politicians, contractors. He had long-running involvement in construction projects, and federal prosecutors love corruption cases that touch politics. These are the kinds of wins that can make someone's career. Tony's utility as an informant wouldn't be limited to mobsters either. There's precedent for using lower-level mob bosses to get deeper into political machines or white-collar crime.
Someone tell you this? I'm giving you an opportunity to cut a deal, make it right.
Think about his dealings with Zellman and state officials. Even if Tony was considered the top of his small family, he could still facilitate bigger fish by connecting the dots for law enforcement. Moreover, there is precedent in real life. Mob bosses have flipped after sentencing. FBI cases can span years. If Tony had chosen to cooperate post-conviction, he might have helped secure further convictions within and outside the mob. The romantic idea that Tony would never flip because of loyalty doesn't hold much water. That code was dead. He knew it. He said it. And it's not just theory. His real-life counterparts flipped too. In the end, the idea of Tony holding the line while everything around him crumbled feels like wishful thinking. The writing was on the wall. Flipping was his most rational path forward, even if it came at the expense of whatever honor he still claimed to have. Elliot's water bottle isn't just a prop. It's a symbol of everything wrong with professionalism on The Sopranos. Here's the messy truth nobody talks about. Elliot, the therapist, perfectly embodied the type of person irrationally devoted to an oversized, impractical water bottle. He didn't even use the spout meant for drinking. He'd unscrew the entire lid every time like he was conducting a science experiment. It was bizarrely performative, like hydration as a lifestyle choice. This wasn't some post-2018 quirk either. Apparently, this particular species has been around longer than expected.
I honestly believe that he's not ready.
Refer him to another doctor.
I really think that I'm
Obsessed?
He constantly looked down on Dr. Melfi for treating Tony, moralizing from a distance. But it was clear he was just as fascinated by Tony's world. The dinner party scene made that obvious. He wasn't concerned about ethics. He wanted to embarrass her. He loved the drama.
My father was a rabid Untouchables fan. Make of that what you will.
His father, reportedly a rabid Untouchables fan, offers some context for the performative moral rigidity. People found him insufferable, but there's a case to be made that he was unintentionally hilarious. The Velcro water bottle? Completely absurd, and yes, entirely real. It belonged to actor Peter Bogdanovich, not a prop department. He carried it in a mesh bag wherever he went. The showrunners noticed and incorporated it into the character, turning Elliot into a man who looked like he couldn't survive 5 minutes without his water supply strapped to his side. The irony is rich. Elliot lectures others about professionalism, yet behaves in ways that are ethically dubious at best.
You're patient, Jennifer. Your inability to bring the therapy to a conclusion.
He blurs the line between professional boundaries and personal bias, just enough to technically follow the rules while subverting them in spirit. He wanted to break his oath without doing so explicitly. That bottle is almost symbolic of everything off about him. While pretending to be above it all, he clings to something ridiculous with total seriousness. It's not just a water bottle, it's a character choice. A satire of the over-serious academic who lacks self-awareness. The comedic tension in that scene is heightened by the fact that this character, full of smug detachment, is modeled after a very real figure. Bogdanovich, a filmmaker and actor with an outsized Hollywood legacy, brought his quirks directly into the role. His movies, like Paper Moon and The Last Picture Show, are considered classics. His presence in the show added a strange authenticity, blending real-life eccentricity with scripted satire. Even small details like that bottle help create the layered realism the show is known for. The visual absurdity grounds the otherwise intense, morally fraught scenes in something oddly familiar. In a way, Elliot's water bottle became one of the most memorable, absurdly human props in television, because it wasn't a prop at all. Here's what nobody talks about. Tony draining the pool wasn't just about money or maintenance. It's one of the darkest symbols in The Sopranos. At first glance, draining the pool might seem like a practical decision, routine maintenance, or perhaps cutting costs. But the moment carries deeper symbolic weight when viewed in the context of the entire series. In Season 1, the pool was a place of peace and reflection for Tony. It was where he bonded with a group of ducks, an interaction that unexpectedly triggered his first panic attack. The ducks weren't just animals. They represented Tony's fears of losing his family, his control, and the fragile sense of comfort he had built around himself. Over the years, the pool remained a recurring image. Early on, it was a site of family gatherings and summer joy. Later, during Tony's separation from Carmela, it became a lonely backdrop for solitary swims and late-night vigils. It even served as the setting for an intimate reconnection between Tony and Carmela, a moment of temporary hope in an otherwise strained relationship. By season 6, that hope has faded. The family is fractured. Meadow and AJ have grown emotionally distant, Carmela is once again disillusioned, and Tony himself has become more cynical, more paranoid, and more resigned than ever. The ducks never returned. What once symbolized warmth and belonging now stands empty, a hollow reminder of what has been lost.
Get some water or something. My son has panic attacks.
Crucially, the decision to drain the pool comes immediately after AJ's attempted suicide there. The act is not just symbolic, it is a response to a very real and traumatic event.
What you are going to do today is get up and do a break, and then pull all the leaves out of the pool filter.
The pool, once a safe haven, has now become a site of danger and despair. Draining it removes the threat, but it also signals Tony's final surrender to a reality he can no longer deny. The life he was trying to preserve is gone. Whether viewed through a practical or symbolic lens, the drained pool mirrors Tony's emotional state, once full of meaning, now emptied of everything it once held. Ever notice how Tony Soprano's eating tells you more about his mood than his words ever could? Tony Soprano's eating habits are practically a character study in themselves. He doesn't just consume food, he uses it to communicate. His mood dictates the pace. If he's angry, he eats either aggressively or with slow, threatening deliberation. Sometimes he raids the fridge like a wild animal, no strategy, just instinct and appetite. In one scene, Season 5, Episode 10, the eating becomes especially loaded. He's jabbing his fork into the plate, not even bringing the food to his mouth. His attention is elsewhere. The food is just a tool for expression. Heavy, nasal breathing. Not just breathing, snorting. It's a full-body performance. The way he stabs and twirls his fork feels hostile, calculated. Even when it's just cereal, it turns into a spectacle. The man doesn't just eat, he dominates his meal.
Got mayonnaise on your chin. What? Mayonnaise! Mayonnaise!
And then there's the mayonnaise incident. Dipping gabagool in a jar of mayo, like it's completely normal. The pronunciation, mayonnaise, draws attention in the most obnoxious way. It's gross. It's theatrical. It's power, expressed through appetite. There's a pattern. If he's upset, out comes the salsa with a spoon, or he goes after pasta like he's interrogating it. He pokes and stabs at it like he's testing for a pulse. Cold cereal? That's his passive-aggressive breakfast when Carmela won't make eggs. Which, of course, leads to him yelling, "Carmela, make me some eggs." The man eats like he's entitled to be fed by the universe itself. Gandolfini's performance makes Tony's relationship with food a reflection of his inner world. Whether it's sushi or linguine and clams, there is often a guttural, animalistic energy. Snorting, chewing, snarling. He eats selfishly, with purpose, and often alone.
Buddy.
You went there without me?
Yeah, I was hungry.
That one scene where he eats sushi without Carmela. It's indulgent and isolating. It isn't just hunger, it's assertion. Even something like melted ice cream becomes a scene. He doesn't eat it, he stirs it until it's soup, like he's trying to change its form through sheer irritation. There's also a cultural layer. Like in The Godfather, when Sonny grabs a hunk of bread and sauce after hearing about his father getting shot. In that world, eating during crisis isn't gluttony, it's preparation. It's survival. Tony embodies that same logic. Eat now, because something bad's always around the corner. His fork is a weapon. His plate is a battlefield. Whether it's pasta, cereal, or orange peel beef, Tony eats like a man who believes control can be enforced by stabbing a rigatoni hard enough. Here's the ugly truth: they don't tell you about Tony Soprano's tough guy act. It was all about hiding his own insecurities. Early in Season 2, Tony was absolutely obsessed with mocking anyone who wasn't skinny, especially the fat fucks.
Come here, you fat fuck. You fucking beached whale.
Pussy? He called him a beached whale and a fat fuck, like it was a term of endearment. Bobby? Same treatment. Tony would tell him to consider work as exercise and even threaten to shove a book up Bobby's fat fucking ass. Brutal. Meanwhile, Tony himself wasn't exactly a fitness model, especially later in the series, when he became a chubby guy breathing heavy. Heavy breathing. What did you say? Heavy breathing. Yeah, Tony wasn't psychic, but hey, he was the boss, so shut the fuck up. In the early seasons, Tony was still kind of into working out, trying not to be as buff as the bigger guys around him, whether consciously or not. It seems the fat-shaming jokes stopped once the actor started letting himself go, because honestly, Tony should have looked in a mirror. No more weight remarks, though. Those are just hurtful and destructive. Even Ginny could get kind of hefty, used to be quite the dancer, poor thing. She never even got to ride in the Maserati, which is a shame. At least she got some cash from that guy with the camel nose before he crashed his Escalade, whatever happened there. Tony was the worst kind of fat shamer, handing you a slice of gabagool in one hand, judging you with the other if you dared to eat it. He loved having Bobby around because at least he wasn't the fattest guy in the room. But by the end, Tony was out-fatting Bobby, no contest. Bobby even had to wear a fat suit once, but it was terrible. It made him look pregnant sometimes. Hey, how's Junior doing? Yeah. Tony was quite the chubster himself. Wasn't there an episode where he weighed himself close to 300 pounds? He even took off his shoes and pants to get down to 280. Classic Tony. The rule seemed to be, if they're fatter than you, they're fair game for fat jokes. Ginny, she was huge. Get off my car before you flip it over, you fat fuck, Tony would bark. Salad suggestions? Not really his style. This was how he felt like a man. He was rude as hell, but somehow oddly charming. Boy, you're fat. Classic Tony. Seriously, what happened to Reginald Van Gleeson III? And how much weight did the actor gain over the years? Like Raymond Burr in Perry Mason, both men gained weight as time went on, though Burr was on some kind of diet, unlike this guy. Tony never really looked in the mirror, not exactly the most sensitive guy. And with all the beef and sausage he ate by the carload, it's no surprise. Speaking of weight,
Had a 95-pound mole surgically taken off her ass.
it said Ginny Sacks had a 90-pound mole removed. Jersey's small, but if she moves in, she could probably tip over the whole place. You're just projecting your own insecurities. Projecting my war. And in the end, Tony was basically a calzone with legs. So fat, his blood type was ragu. Most people miss this. The Sopranos isn't just dark drama, it's a masterclass in comedy disguised as crime. No show has made me laugh as much as The Sopranos. Honestly, there's probably more comedy than drama. Almost every scene is loaded with funny lines. Sometimes, major plot moments are really just setups for jokes.
I think I know what happened to Ralph. And if I'm right, he ain't coming back.
Take Tony killing Ralph. A huge turning point, sure, but the whole scene feels like a setup for dark humor. The malapropisms alone are comedy gold. Carmine Jr., Albert Berets, Jr., they all deliver laughs. Chris, too, has some fantastic funny lines. HBO mastered the blend of comedy and drama while still keeping the show grounded and serious. Compare that to The Wire or Deadwood. Funny how? Not clownish, just the writing and dialogue are naturally funny. Classic lines like, "Isn't any more cunnilingus and therapy brought us to this," rank among the funniest ever. Or Paulie confronting his mother, throwing the TV out the window, and a woman in a wheelchair passing by without noticing. That moment never fails to crack me up. That's good. Mix it with the relish, is pure comedy gold. Tony Sirico's delivery is impeccable. There's at least one malapropism every scene. The show is dark comedy. Malapropisms, like mixing up priapism with prasium. Classic insults. Priapism, you fucking ass kiss. Sure, the drama keeps the story exciting week to week. You never know what will happen next. But the comedy is what makes The Sopranos endlessly watchable. The mob itself is inherently humorous. A criminal career path held together by tough guys and a code of silence. The Sopranos is simply the best show ever made. Nothing else comes close. It's a comedy, a tragedy, a family drama, and even a horror movie.
I can't find pussy anywhere.
Lines like, "I can't find pussy anywhere" carry layers of meaning. And "the sacred and the propane" is just brilliant.
Problems, the Middle East, the end of the world.
Nostradamus.
The Nostradamus scene kills every time. The line, "It didn't happen what you said," is hilarious. It's clearly a comedy and satire, sharing the same comic premise as Analyze This. The drama provides weight, but the humor is front and center. Some critics might find it insulting to their intelligence or call it stupid, but the characters are brilliantly flawed, perfect for a dark comedy disguised as a mob drama. It was supposed to be a drama? Not really. It's a comedy hiding in plain sight. For example, the sit-down between Tony, Carmine Jr., and Phil showcases Carmine's malapropisms and Phil's killer one-liners.
Captain? The good ship Lollipop, right? Phil.
Captain? Of what? The good ship Lollipop? Junior staring at a court artist because he didn't like how he was portrayed on TV is laugh-out-loud funny. And the cunnilingus and counseling line from the oral sex episode, possibly the funniest line ever delivered. Paulie, he was an interior designer. Chris, his house looked like shit. The Sopranos is the perfect mix of dark humor and drama. That's why it's timeless. I appreciate you watching Sopranos Breakdown. If you liked it, help us hit 1,000 likes. Just tap that button, drop a comment, subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you next time.